Because of my job, I used to travel to China a lot. One time, I flew to China to review development samples. It was freezing that day. Snow on the ground had already turned to ice, and I had not packed enough warm clothes. The factory arranged a driver to pick me up from Shanghai airport. After 3 hours in the car, we finally arrived at the hotel. From the outside, the building looked old and tired. When I walked into the lobby, I felt cold air go straight into my bones. The lobby was dim, with yellow lights, dark furniture, glass cabinets, crystal decorations, and old porcelain displays everywhere. It didn't feel like a hotel. It felt like an outdated tourist shopping mall. After I checked in, a bellman took my luggage and led me to my room. The elevator was small and slow. The mirror inside had black edges, like the silver had peeled away over time. I kept telling myself, it's only 3 days. I just need a place to sleep. But when the elevator doors opened, I felt even worse. The hallway had dark red carpet, yellow lights, and brown doors. Everything smelled old and damp. The bellman led me all the way to the end of the hallway. My room was right next to a storage room. The moment I stepped inside, I felt the same freezing cold again. I turned on the heater, unpacked just enough for a shower, and went to bed. The next morning, before leaving for the factory, I noticed the storage room door beside my room was open. I wanted to ask housekeeping to check the heater, but when I looked inside, no one was there. That day was exhausting. I worked at the factory all day. By the time I got back to the hotel, it was around 1 a.m. I took off my heels, turned on the lights, the TV, and the heater, and was about to shower when the room phone rang. I picked up the phone, and it was someone called Wrong Room. I hung up and unplugged the phone line. After a shower, I got under the blanket and fell asleep with the TV still on. All of a sudden, the phone rang again. Half awake, I picked it up. Hello? All I heard was wind, a deep, empty sound, like air moving through a tunnel. Hello? I said again. Still nothing. Just that wind. I hung up. Then I suddenly realized something. The phone line was unplugged. So how did the phone ring? I grabbed the prayer beads I kept under my pillow and said out loud to the air, "Please don't mess with me. I'm only here for work. I'm leaving in 2 days. Please just let me sleep." I kept saying that until I fell asleep. The next morning, I told the front desk my room was freezing and asked to change rooms. They said they would send someone to check the heater first. That night, the factory team took me to a local karaoke restaurant, but I left early and went back to the hotel. When I walked into the lobby, the front desk told me they had checked my room and the heater was working fine. They said they had left it on all day for me. But when I got back to the room, it was still cold. I was upset, so I called the front desk and asked someone to come feel the temperature for themselves. About a minute later, a housekeeping lady came to my room. She walked in, looked around and said, "It's warm. There's nothing wrong." I told her, "But I'm freezing." She said, "Maybe you're not used to the weather here." Then she turned around and left. A little later, the phone rang again. It was someone who sounded drunk. I hung up and unplugged the phone line again. That night, I took the fastest shower of my life. Even with hot water running, the bathroom still felt freezing. Only the water was warm. Everything else felt cold. I got into bed wearing my robe, wrapped myself in the blanket, and left the TV on. Then, in the middle of the night, the phone rang again. This time, I was wide awake. I knew I had unplugged it. I picked up the phone and placed the handset beside me. Then I turned on every light in the room and held my prayer beads as tightly as I could. Suddenly, the TV went black. Then right next to my ear, I heard a low laugh. Heh, heh, heh. I screamed and jumped out of bed. And then I realized it was a dream. The TV was still on. I looked at the time, 4 a.m. I decided not to go back to sleep. I turned on my laptop, called someone in the US on Skype, and kept myself awake until sunrise. At 7 a.m., I packed as fast as I could and rushed to leave the room. But the moment I stepped into the hallway, I heard a woman's voice beside my ear. She said, "Goodbye."
Bye.
I froze. Then I pretended I didn't hear anything and walked as calmly as I could to the elevator. When I checked out, I told the front desk the room had a problem. The heater was not working, and I had called last night. I also told them that a housekeeping lady came to my room. The front desk clerk looked confused. She said, "I was on duty last night. We never received a call from your room, and we don't have housekeeping staff at night. So, who came into my room